sometimes it's just so hard to interact with conspiracy theorists because it's not, conspiracy theories don't lack explanatory power. They can explain everything, right? And so like in the quote, he'll say, you know, if someone has a conspiracy that they think everyone is conspiring against them, well, the only thing you can tell them is that.
Hey, before we jump into the podcast, we want to thank all our donors and supporters who make the Today Count show possible. It's through your generosity that we're able to shape leaders through this content and this podcast. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow wherever you find yourself coming across this content. All right, let's get to the podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Today Count show. This is Jim Piper, your host. I have with me today Micah Kunkle. I want to give you a little bit of a background. We're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk today, along with a lot of other things, probably very much related to Charlie Kirk, his business, his ministry, his heart. And so I'm really humbly looking forward to hearing what Micah has to say. Micah, you and I were talking before I hit the record button. You're 24 years old. You're married. You're a Southern California guy, like I am originally, by way of Denver and now Texas, but I have fond memories of California and surfing. I understand that you surf like your dad.
Oh yeah. I just surfed 2 days ago. Yeah, I'm a big surfer.
Okay, and you do videography as a living, social media management and such.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that on your own. It's your own business.
Yeah. I dropped out of college, similar to Charlie Kirk, but dropped out of college, started my own business, and started doing videography, photography, and social media for businesses, organizations, individuals, events. So a lot of weddings, things like that too.
Yeah, and just to give a context to our relationship, your father grew up in my youth group when I was a youth pastor many years ago, and now here I am talking to one of his adult children. Micah, what got you interested in Christian apologetics, politics? Because you're not just kind of interested; it's not a hobby. I mean, those of you who are watching this on YouTube, I mean, you know, you're making it pretty clear where you stand by what you're wearing. But where did this begin? I mean, I know that you had some influencers, of course, in your life, which you talk about, but it has to go deeper than that.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously my parents played a huge role in that, in exposing me to Christian apologetics, and my dad taking me with him when he would go speak, and then my mom homeschooling me. And so those played a big role into it. But I'm particularly interested because, one, I just love ideas. I love talking about ideas. I'm very passionate about the truth and what is true and how do we know what's true, and learning more about that, because ultimately I think thinking through those things will determine how you live. And my dad has a saying that he taught me: ideas have consequences, right? And so if ideas have consequences, we really want to be careful thinkers and think through what we're believing and what kind of ideas we have.
It seems that you're kind of wired a lot like your dad. I mean, I always remember your dad asking the hard questions, you know, to me. Some of them I didn't even think about, you know, when he was younger. So seems like you got that DNA in you pretty well. So
Definitely.
Charlie Kirk, as we all know, was assassinated, and I know that has had a massive impact on you. But even prior to that, I think he was an influence in your life. Was that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. I had met Charlie before. I've appeared in a couple of these online Jubilee videos on YouTube before. And so I had actually met him at the first shoot that I did for Jubilee, right before he did his. So that was really cool. But before that, I had consumed lots of Charlie Kirk content, had seen him do debates on college campuses, was very familiar with Turning Point USA, although I never attended one of their conferences, was very familiar with his work.
I know that you've been impacted by the assassination. How are you doing today, Micah? If that's a fair question.
Yeah, it's been a week now, actually, exactly,
Yeah.
since we found out about it. At least it's the day of this recording.
How
Um,
how how did you find out about it? I found out about it through a text from my daughter.
Yeah, so I had actually that morning gone to an event where I got to listen to Amy Coney Barrett, Supreme Court Justice, speak with my mom, my sister, my brother, and my grandma. And so that was in the morning, and then we went to lunch, and then I got a text from a friend,
Oh,
um, and he said, "Hey, did you hear what happened with Charlie Kirk? So, or did you hear that he got shot?" So then immediately went on to X and looked at all the news, and then I came across the video.
that's
About
graphic.
30-40 minutes later, I came across the video of, yeah, the close-up video, the graphic one. And then that's when I was like, yeah, it's pretty much over for him. I'm sure he's not going to make it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure even the news, that he died later was, you know, uh, medical optimism. I mean,
yeah, it
when you
was.
yeah, when you saw that, no one should see that, but when you saw that, you know that, I mean, that was it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's when it like hit me. And then I was here. I just my mom had just dropped me off because we carpooled together back at my apartment. And that's when I saw the official news article that he had died. Um, so yeah, I was on a phone on the phone with a friend, and we kind of just both, when we got that news, we just kind of both hung up to have our moments
Yeah,
of silence
yeah.
and grieving. So
Well, before we talk more about Charlie, how do you see Gen Z, your generation? And do you remember what years those cover? What do you remember the borders of those years for that we labeled Gen Z?
Um, well, I know it starts, I mean, you can get different years from different sources, but it
Probably
it starts around the later 90s, definitely earlier 2000s. And it probably goes until the 2010s, early 2010s, maybe.
okay, okay. How do you evaluate your generation? What's going on in your generation? Certainly in the Western world. Do you have your pulse on that? How would you describe it? I mean, there's a lot of sound bites going on about what's happening and this and that and the other thing, but I've never taken the time to actually sit down with a Gen Zer and ask. So I'm asking now. What's your take?
Yeah, so Gen Z is very encouraging. It is Gen Z, and specifically Gen Z men are moving towards conservatism and religion, actually, in greater numbers than we've seen in past generations before. So we can definitely see them reacting to, I think, very secular, liberal world culture, and they're, swinging the pendulum um, to the other side. And so uh, while, Gen Z probably still, there's plenty of Gen Z that's very liberal. Most generations when they were younger were really liberal.
Yeah.
And so if you compare the data of how many conservative Gen Zers there are now versus other generations at that time, we are outpacing the past, I think, like 3 generations, as far as how many conservatives, Republicans we have. So there's definitely a sense of like wanting to get back to traditional values and wanting to get back to Christianity.
So here's a lazy thought. Square it up for me. Just by looking at all the listening to and looking at all the sound bites, it would cause one to think that there is a Jesus movement of some sort going on, and yet there is a far extreme, um, you know, atheistic, if not atheistic, certainly agnostic, kind of a deal. But yet there seems to be this growing group in the middle, and I just don't know if it's exaggerated through social media that it's just kind of like rewriting the Bible, if you will. Uh, or what they're calling a deconstruction, right,
Yeah.
of what's going on. From your vantage point, what do you think is true? What's hyped? What's true? Uh, and maybe you don't have the data, maybe you do, but how do you view that? Did it make sense, my question?
Yeah, well, I mean, there is the deconstruction movement for sure. I
Is that a growing movement?
I wouldn't say so. In one sense, yes, and I mean, I think Gen Z too is also just becoming like very divided. Like, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of Gen Z people that are like in the middle. It seems like you're either kind of a full liberal or you're full conservative. Um, and so in that sense, it might be growing. But I think you're finding a lot of people that are going back to church, and that are searching for meaning and purpose in their life. And they're realizing and honestly looking at millennials and saying, that's not the way we want to go. We don't want to go that way. And so there's got to be something different.
I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
the mo the millennials have been a problem since they were born, I guess. I think
Yeah, I think so.
they,
I think so.
baby boomers, which I'm a part of, hasn't always looked favorably. Sorry, all you guys, all you millennials. I have my son, who technically falls in the millennial category, says he is not, and he will not be miscategorized. And
Yeah, it's not really a group people want to be associated with, and Gen Z is included in that, and so we've been trying to get away from them. But yeah, I mean, the deconstruction movement, I wouldn't really say it's been like, at least for Gen Z in particular, it's been a huge thing. I think for millennials, it's been a much bigger thing for that
Interesting.
than
So like,
just.
one of the things that bothers me about social media is it just in a lot of ways it just seems cowardly. It's
Mm,
you get on there. There are intellectuals who claim to be part of the deconstructive uh, movement, who get analytical, who almost sound like they have an argument for this or that. But then again, they're not in a conversation. They're just backing up their truck and
mhm,
dumping it. And then, of course, you got the people that it doesn't even make sense. What they're saying. It's like they wake up with an idea and throw it out, and then they go away. And I'm just thinking about what I mean. Social media is part of how you survive. It's your. But what do you think about social media?
Um, I would advise anyone that has social media to try to either delete it or to get off of it as much as
Wow.
possible.
I
Um,
did not expect you to say that.
I think social media is really bad, for a lot of people. And so while I think as Christians, I think we're called to go into dark places, right? And to be a light and to spread the gospel and to win the war of ideas. we also do need to be taking care of ourselves. And I mean, I'll be the first one to say I spend too much time on social media too. So I had a friend actually message me recently of like, hey, like, I don't really know what's going on. Like, I'm on social media, and so I don't think I'm gonna download it. I told him, don't download it. Stay it, keep that way. Keep it off your phone. But of course, I think, appropriate amounts of social media is okay. But yeah, I would advise people to try to stay off it, because it can be extremely toxic on social media. I mean, you just go on Twitter, you go on TikTok, and you just can see some of the most vilest, nasty things said. And then additionally, I think it can give you a false sense of reality. You see these, and the way the algorithms work, right, is that anything that keeps people on the social media platform is boosted in the algorithm. And so what keeps people on the algorithm sometimes is very hateful, disgusting things. And we can get an idea of like that's what majority of people think out there,
That's good, Micah.
and
Yeah,
that's not the case.
that's good insight. So in other words,
Yeah.
my daughter was coaching me today. I was out on the range working, trying to fix my driver, and she wanted me to listen to a certain podcast that was kind of centered around, Charlie's assassination. As I was listening to that, I also kind of confessed to her that I'm so sick of IG, and she started educating me regarding the algorithm of how I can try to manipulate it better, so that I don't have that. But our church does an annual 1 week fast on all media, and I'm beginning to think. In the beginning, I wasn't, I did it because we're a community and we do those things together. But now I'm thinking, if I don't get off of social media altogether, I need to fast from it and I need to do a lot more than 1 week a year. I mean,
Mm.
it's no matter how careful you are, you just get exposed to this stuff. You don't even know what's true and what's false anymore in the sense of news being reported. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's obviously Facebook spends more money than anybody, I think, on security, yet clickbait is all over the place, so you
Hmm.
just, yeah, it makes you kind of wonder who's behind all that. But
Yeah.
let's yeah, so, why was Charlie, from your vantage point, why was Charlie loved so much? And I think it's probably fair to say, was he certainly wasn't hated as much as he was loved, was he? I mean,
Mhm.
and talk about these accusations, on his personhood, his character, the stuff that's being thrown out now. Um, but first, let's start with why was he loved and respected so much?
I mean, he was loved and respected because, one, he was so bold in what he believed in, and you know, he's inspired me to be more bold, given what I'm wearing today.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is that he always treated his debate opponents with gentleness and respect. He always, you know, let people who disagreed with him up to the microphone first. And he always engaged civilly with people. And there's a clip of him that's been going around where he talks about like someone early on when he started doing college campus stuff. Someone comes up and asks him like, "Hey, why are you doing this?" And he says, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens, right? And then he says, in marriages, when marriages stop talking, divorce happens.
Yeah.
And uh, that's why I think he was really ultimately loved and respected, is because um, he wanted to talk. He didn't want to resort to other things. He wanted to talk, and he wanted to debate, and if he was wrong, he wanted to know.
That's good. What about these accusations that, are being thrown at him by those who are frankly, either taking that intellectual approach that, well, what does he expect kind of a thing, to just some of the downright um, accusations, about bigotry and hate, and the list is pretty long, actually.
Yeah. Well, and this is what I'll say too, kind of going back on the social media piece, is don't trust videos on social media to give you the truth. Of course, there's always videos that are great and wonderful, but you should have a healthy skepticism of these videos and taking clips out of context, and taking quotes out of context to use it for whatever purposes the person wants. And so, that's what I would encourage. If anyone hears a Charlie Kirk quote, they think, oh, that's not very great, go look up the context. Go
Right.
watch the full thing for yourself, because
so
very often
Yeah,
he
it's such an
clarifies it.
elementary truth. It's such an elementary truth, yet here you are having to state it again. It's just
Yeah.
like walking by two people that are having a conversation. You hear three words and you can conclude what they were talking about, and you could be completely wrong, taking it
Yeah.
out of context. And
Yeah.
in fact, that's a lot of the deconstruction movement as well. Uh, I don't want to get pharisaical, but lack of education
Mhm.
can, I mean, we're talking like reading, right, linguistic education, theological education, historical, cultural. I can keep adding words. I mean, there's so much disrespect today for, well, how did we get our Bible? I'm actually going to be having your dad on the podcast here in the near future. We're going to,
Mm.
I'm going to, I think what I'm going to do on that,
Why would you have that guy on the show? He doesn't have anything insightful to say.
There have been seasons in my life where I've looked back and I thought, what was that even about? Did I grow in that season? Did I get better? Am I still stuck in that season? If you have similar thoughts, I want to introduce you to a book called Story, The Art of Learning from Your Past. This book, written by Jim Piper, shares principles and stories that actually help us get unstuck and step into the future we've always wanted. Be sure to stop by leadtodaycommunity.com to grab your copy today.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the devil's advocate, and I'm just going to drill them on the Bible, and
Very nice.
it'll bring back some good memories of the old days,
Yeah,
when we got to talk about things like that.
that's good.
Yeah. So how are you doing? Emotionally, spiritually with this, because you were involved in a vigil. Was that last night, or
Mhm.
was that Monday night?
That was on Monday night.
Yeah. Tell me about that vigil. Where was it? How well was it
Yeah.
attended? What was your part in that?
Yeah, so actually looking back on it, very providential. Last Tuesday, I had seen a post, and a friend had sent it to me, about Turning Point USA Vanguard. They were doing a get together down in Newport Beach, and I grew up in Newport Beach. I love that area, so decided to go and connect with them. And then someone I had met through the Jubilee videos, Sarah Stock, was there as well. And so literally that was the day before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And so very providential, we got added to their group chat after that. And almost right away, they were saying, hey, we need to plan a vigil. And we need to get people there. So right away I jumped in and said, hey, yeah, I'd like to say something. And I said, I can live stream it for you guys. I'm a videographer, photographer. I can do photos and videos for it as well. And so, yeah, that was kind of just the role I played. They kind of handled the logistics and location and things like that. But and then on social media, I ended up promoting it there, promoted it on TikTok, and I actually got a ton of views and hate from the TikTok. It was
Wow.
crazy. All the TikTok is me promoting the event. All I said was like, "Hey, I want to invite you to this vigil honoring Charlie Kirk. It's here. I hope to see you there." And I got thousands of hate comments of, Charlie Kirk is this, Charlie Kirk is that. Oh, whatever, nasty, like threats, all
Yeah.
kinds of things. And so, but I actually thank God for that because, it boosted it in the algorithm. I think it's at almost like 75,000 views. And there were multiple people that told me thank you for posting it because that's how they found out about the vigil. And so I would say we ended up having around 100 people there that showed up for it. Maybe some more. I can send you some of the images too. But yeah, it was a really great night. We had worship, we had prayer. Several people spoke. We had 2 city councilmen in that local city come and speak as well. So yeah, it was a really cool night, and you know, uh, it really helps with the processing. It really helps with the grief,
Mourning
and
process, trying to
yeah.
make theological sense out of things.
Hmm.
Um, and but you had a role in it too, as far as didn't you get to say a few words and a prayer or
Yeah.
something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I was able to say a few words, and I spoke specifically on, you know, what the answers to evil are. And
Mm.
you have atheism's answer, which is just that, things happen and that's life, and then you die and it's over, right? And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
But Christianity's answer is so good and so true and so beautiful. And so then got into that a little bit, and then I gave a beautifully written prayer from this book called Every Moment Holy. And they have a bunch of different prayers and liturgies for just different events that might happen in your life. And so they have one for lamenting the passing of a public figure. And so I read that. Um, and so yeah, it was a really beautiful time. But yeah, if you look at my YouTube channel, my speech is up on there.
Great, great. Maybe okay, yeah, we can do that. We'll put that in the show notes, and
Mhm.
yeah, send me some clips if you would, and
Yeah.
as we get this ready for production, we can drop some of those in, at least on the YouTube,
Mm,
section.
yeah.
Full. Did you guys have any kind of security there, or not?
Yeah, so that was a big part, especially if I was gonna promote that publicly. I
Right.
made sure there was gonna be, like, at least some sort of police or security presence there. So, yeah, we did have police, keeping an eye out on us, and so I did promote that in the post and made sure people knew that, and so hopefully, I'm sure that was a good deterrent for some people.
Yeah.
But in social media, I mean, you can go on there and say whatever you want. Um, but when it comes to real life, not a lot of people are willing to actually uh, put in the work to actually go to something like this and do that. But I think with the assassination attempt, it's become clear that there's more people than we thought that are willing to do that. So, yeah, security for a lot of different conservative Christian things are probably going to be upped now.
Yeah, it's amazing. I wonder what the expense is now to the church
Mm,
uh, in our nation. I mean, it's hard to find a church that doesn't have at least one officer, standing around. I know that ours, we have multiple campuses, and
mm,
and yeah, I mean, it's there. Charlie, when Charlie when Charlie was um, there in Utah,
mhm.
and he was on like a tour, right? Is that what I understand it to be? He was
Yeah. He's on a tour, and he's done multiple of these tours before, where he
okay.
tells you which college campuses he's going to, and you can show up and debate him.
And that's really what it is. That was really the format, right? He doesn't really give a
Mhm.
speech. He gives many speeches, within a dialogue that goes on, right?
Yeah. It's just a back and forth conversation.
People get in
Q and
line, they do their deal, and they go
yeah.
after it. And it seemed to me like in some of the videos that I've seen is that even those who are, really struggling with Christian ideas, they even seem to appreciate Charlie
Mm,
and being able to have that kind of open. You mentioned earlier, Micah, that you've already been inspired, but then his boldness has inspired you. You've also mentioned that you yourself have been dibble dabbling in debating and what have you. As you kind of look out and you're trying to figure this out, do you see yourself? Um, I mean, what role do you see yourself playing in your generation? I mean, your dad has Maven, and your mom and dad do, and that's a growing influence. That's similar but different, isn't it?
mhm. Yeah, and yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say Maven is like necessarily political, at least
Right.
quite yet. It's worldview, right? And so that would obviously include politics. So I don't want to say that we're never political. And my parents do on their podcasts have some great, I would say, political type episodes um, that are really insightful. Um, but yeah, and I'm not entirely sure. We'll see what the Lord has in store for me. I definitely am, more motivated than ever to pursue doing content. And so I'm definitely, I've definitely wanted to take, at least a week to just sort of mourn and grieve, and it
Yeah.
just didn't feel right, like jumping into political content just quite
Right.
yet. Um,
Right.
but it's definitely something I want to do more. And I'm open to debates all the time and doing these Jubilee videos. And so that's opened some opportunities for me as well. I had I've had several people since then ask me to debate, and so I've done debates with them and things like that. So yeah, hopefully, like just right now, it's pursuing social media content, but I'm very open to whatever God has in store for me, and willing for Him to use me in whatever way He wants.
How's your bride doing with all of this?
Yeah,
How's her
she was very distraught from all of it, and it's yeah, definitely has it's taken a toll on her too. And so we've we've both uh you know have been there for each other, comforting each other through this. But and she specifically too has just been hurting for Charlie's wife, Erica, and his two kids. Um and so yeah, that part of the assassination is really has been weighing on her. But it's been good. We've been able to process. She was there at the vigil. Um, I hosted just a get together on Sunday for whoever wanted to come. And it was just a night of, hey, let's just talk. Let's just process through it. Bring drinks, bring food, bring snacks, and we'll hang out and bring cigars if you want. And we'll hang out and we'll process through this. And so it was I had about 15 people there. And it was a really great group discussion. We had people of all ages. We had like a 14-year-old that showed up all the way to, like a 55-year-old there. So, it's those things have been just extremely helpful in like talking it out and being able to be in our grief, but not let that consume us, and to eventually have hope that this is not the end, and that Christ will he conquered death, and so we can safely say that Charlie is with our Lord and Savior right now.
Yeah, what do you think, Mike? I don't know how much you've been paying attention to it. You're kind of torn right now, and I hear that pretty clearly. But there's this wave of conspiracy theories that we're not getting the full story. Do you give much credence to that? Or
No,
yeah, okay, yeah,
no, I don't. Yeah, it kind of angers me just a little bit, because it just and this isn't everyone, but it just feels like for a lot of these people and maybe some of these influencers, that they're using his death for clicks and to support their ideology or their view of the world, and that angers me a lot, especially when a lot of these claims they're based off of either no evidence or really just terrible evidence. And I've interacted with some of these people, and I'm just not impressed at all, for the reasons that they're giving, especially, and this is what I have encouraged people to do too, is watch the actual press conferences that the FBI and the governor and the attorney general, watch them yourself. Like, don't take people's word for it. They give you the evidence there. They'll walk you through their findings that they have. But I posted a quote by G.K. Chesterton the other day, talking about how sometimes it's just so hard to interact with conspiracy theorists,
right.
because conspiracy theories don't lack explanatory power. They can explain everything, right? And so, like in the quote, he'll say, if someone has a conspiracy that they think everyone is conspiring against them, well, the only thing you can tell them is that you wouldn't conspire against them, which is exactly how you would respond if you were conspiring against them. And so his point is that, it's kind of circular, and it all kind of feeds it into each other, into the different beliefs. And so that's what I'm finding with a lot of these just really silly explanations. And ultimately it comes down to like a lack of trust in the FBI and in our institutions, which some of it is warranted. I'll absolutely grant that, but we have to take things based off of evidence, and there is no evidence, like a popular theory right now, that like Israel killed Charlie Kirk. There's just absolutely no evidence that this is the case. It's there's zero, absolutely zero. And so, yeah, it makes me a little angry that, sometimes these things are being spread for personal gain.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And like you said, even in our recent, not just our recent history, in our history, we do have black eyes about things that cause us to push back on government and institutions. But it's kind of like in Christian theology, what we believe, scriptures teach that there is Satan and there are demons, but the rational mind recognized they're not infinite, so there's not one behind every bush. And yet those who exaggerate that, everything's the devil's fault. Everything, is Satan's fault,
Yeah.
as if we're not evil enough on our own.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And what we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was great to connect with you. I haven't seen you for a long time. And I appreciate your open comments. I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate the time that you gave me. And I'm sure that people will get a lot out of our conversation today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. And, I think this is really important to talk through, to process through. And so, like next Sunday, I'm going to be there at the memorial that Turning Point is doing for Charlie. So I encourage you, if you're in the area, to go. Yeah, it's going to be in Arizona. It's going to be at State Farm Stadium. The Arizona Cardinals play there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I already know, I think they already have had 80,000 people register for tickets. So it's basically almost already sold out, but I'm going to make the drive there because I think it's really important to honor Charlie Kirk and his legacy, but also to process through it and then connect with like-minded individuals. But anyways, appreciate you having me on. Yeah.
Well, Micah, it's a defining moment for many people, right? And in the Old Testament, we'd read about that's often where we would build an altar, right? It's a memorial. They're important things. I mean, there's a how many Americans right now? I mean, look at our age difference. How many Americans now weren't even can even remember the attacks on 9/11? And it's amazing to me how quickly that can be forgotten in history, where I'm living it like it was yesterday. I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing. I could not believe my eyes. And, we went back to New York before, they had the redesign and building, when it was in shambles. We felt like we needed to, not just to honor, but to be frank, to live, right? To live and recognize that we needed that too. And then, of course, we've been back a couple of times, to visit, which now is more of a museum, I guess you could say, in some ways. So I'm glad you're doing that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Mike Kunkle, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us on the Today Counts show. We got so much more planned for you. So stay tuned and stay connected on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and subscribe on YouTube. And remember, today counts.